DeMeco Ryans had some comments for his defense after the Titans loss. It was definitely frustrating for Texans fans to go down 7-5. I know the Titans game was coming up on a week ago, but this has to be addressed, right? DeMeco Ryans made a comment on the Texans defense. In reality, it's more of the offense's issue. So I'll show you the quote here. Our offense did plenty. They gave us enough points, and on defense, we have to be able to stop them. As much as I want to agree with that statement, this defense has been underwhelming. The secondary in particular, I've talked about it in past videos. I'll stress it enough. The defensive secondary has not been good. But the funniest thing here is the fact that the Texans had 8 sacks, a pick 6, multiple fumble recoveries, and DeMeco has the audacity to say, yeah, we need to do better on defense. Now, to be fair, as a defensive head coach, I can understand the fact that he's like, you know what? We didn't stop the run. We let up 100 yards to Tony Pollard. We let Calvin Ridley have a deep bomb. And for me, I'm addressing it. I did it in the first video. We talked about the Titans game. I addressed that. That's just how things go. You want to be able to improve, especially as a defensive head coach. DeMeco is always going to have that mindset to say, hey, we need to improve. And I 100% guarantee. I 100% agree. I don't know why I say guarantee. But the thing is, you can't just say you have to worry about the defense, right? Yes, the defense could have lost you that game, but you could also look at it from the other eye and say, hey, the offense lost us that game, right? C.J. Stroud threw 2 interceptions. C.J. Stroud couldn't go down the field. The offense had a penalty that called back a Nico Collins touchdown. These kinds of things can happen on offense, right? But the thing is, Stroud has not had a good season all year. And the fact to say that the defense didn't do enough when they actually kept you in that game, I know they let up 32 points to the Titans, who have not been the greatest team this season. But for DeMeco, it's so difficult for me to understand that you have to address the offense too. As a head coach, your job is to control the team, right? So I just don't understand why you can't say, hey, offense got to get better, right? I know Jalen Pitre got hurt on defense, so that's definitely not going to be a great thing. But where I'm going with this is, what does this team look at for the rest of the season, right? How do they bounce back, or basically look at what are we doing? So for me, schedule-wise, they go play Jaguars, Dolphins, Chiefs, Ravens, Titans. Honestly, there's no gimme game on here. It's a matter of, this is a team that has 2 division games. The Jaguars played us closely last time, 24-20. I talked about the preview. Go check out the previous video. But what does this team look at for the rest of the year? They've had a sophomore slump, 7-5 with the Jags game, hopefully 8-5. But I honestly think we win 3 games. We will either lose to the Dolphins or the Jaguars. We will not lose both of those games. We will split with the Titans. We will either beat the Ravens or the Chiefs, not both of them. So 3-2 the rest of the season, 10-7 on top of the AFC South, hopefully. I don't believe the Colts can catch us. Nobody in the AFC South is really contenders except the Texans. And this leads me into, okay, this is the season right here. This is the schedule on a silver platter. What adjustments do you make? Bobby Slowick, C.J. Stroud haven't really been on the same page. The offense has been bad. And to be fair, the loss of Stephon Diggs doesn't help. You bring in Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon, all these great guys. The Texans are supposed to be this firepower house of a team, right? Top 5 team in the league. Supposed to be really good. Problem is, they're now 7-5. They look fraudulent, if you would. Everyone's like, the Texans. But I said it before. I think I said it in every video so far. The regular season does not define your season. And let's look at past history for a second, right? If you're looking at all the games of who's done what in the regular season, now to be fair, the guys that I'm about to show do not have a second-year head coach. But let's go to Mr. Brady with the big Super Bowl run. He had a little bit of a bump in the road. And now this is a 20-year veteran quarterback we're talking about. But I'm trying to bring up the fact that there's teams out there, like the Bucs, in his first year, that struggled heavily in the regular season. Didn't even know if they were going to make the postseason. And then they go on to win it all. the Chiefs. This is a bad example, but Patrick Mahomes. Last year, bad regular season. Everyone's like, the Chiefs, and we're like, listen, that on them, goes on to win a Super Bowl. So the point here is basically the fact that the Texans may have not been good all year. They may go 8-9 and win their division, but I'm at least confident enough to say that this team can figure it out. This team is going to do well in the future moving forward. And if there's a little jawing at each other right now, I mean, there's no point really to give up on them, right? This is a great clip I found, a quote on Twitter. If you're a Texans fan and you've given up on CJ Stroud and DeMeco Ryans, I don't want to say that last part because it's a little rude, but please don't claim our team anymore. Criticism is okay, but I love this because it's like, this team is not as bad as everyone says it is. Yes, there is problems. There's a lot of problems. The run game has been great, but there's times where it's inconsistent, where Joe Mixon can't find any breathing room. But where I'm going with this is the fact that every team bounces back. And I think CJ Stroud can win the big games in the playoff. I know he hasn't really done it too often. No offense, sorry, Buckeyes fans. But this team has the potential to win a Super Bowl. And as crazy as it sounds, I actually believe that DeMeco Ryans is doing the right thing. We're centering this around DeMeco Ryans, so let's circle back. DeMeco Ryans has been a great head coach. There's no reason to even question if he should stay this season or not. Like, there's been some call out of some big name head coaches, like just like Andy Reid. I mean, that's the thing. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, I mentioned the Super Bowl with that. Reid is such a great coach. And I think DeMeco can have that effect on Stroud to where they can win a Super Bowl this season. And it sounds crazy because you look at all these sophomore quarterbacks. Brock Purdy went to a Super Bowl in his second season. You have Joe Burrow. I know that was a different team, but they went to a Super Bowl. And Russell Wilson won a Super Bowl. Big Ben won a Super Bowl. Kurt Warner, all of them in their second sophomore season. Now, it may not have been as bad as it was as the Texans are doing right now, and that's probably the problem of why I can't really say that they are going to win the Super Bowl, because it's a little bit blasphemy. And it's a little bit biased. But when I look at the Texans, what they need to improve, their offensive line for one. Their offensive line isn't bad. You look at the safety, but offensive line, secondary, just defense all around, and then the offensive play. If you guys can figure out a system that works, John Mechie has stepped up, Nico Collins is back, get Dalton Schultz, Cade Stover involved, get the run game, run first, play action. That's how you're going to win football games. And I strongly do believe that the Chiefs have been so inconsistent this season, they might get a first-round bye, and the Texans might pull out a win in the Chargers in the wild card round, and then they will go into Arrowhead. And I think they beat the Chiefs. With the way the Chiefs are playing, they've edged out the Raiders. They've edged out almost every team they played this year. The Panthers. If they're beating these no offense to the Raiders and Panthers. I know the Raiders was a division game, so that's a little bit different. But if you're beating the Panthers by 3 points, there is a severe problem. I do not think the Chiefs are that great, but this is where the Texans need to lock in. I know it's a tough season. I know it may get worse before it gets better. But looking at it right now, you beat a couple teams. We'll go back to graphic right here. You go back to the. Here it is. I don't know why it ever jumped around, but this is the schedule. I don't have a problem if they win 1-2 games. The only problem is if you happen by a smidge, if you have that slight possibility where you lose out the rest of the season, that is the only problem where I'm like, oh no, do the Colts catch us? Because if the Colts win the AFC South, that will be the worst case scenario for the Texans because they had all this hype coming into the offseason and they can't even back it up. I do believe if they sneak into the playoffs, they can be that underdog story type of team that just goes on a run. And they may not win the Super Bowl, but they could get far. AFC Championship. And I think even winning another playoff game this year is a successful season for the Houston Texans. So a little bit of a ramble, a little bit of a rant. But I couldn't help myself. This team is actually capable of winning. They are. They've had some struggles. They have sophomore season, sophomore slump. But get the defense right. Get the O-line right. Lock in. Battle through the trenches. Whatever you got to do. And win when it matters most in the playoffs. So thank you everyone so much for watching. This is the Texans Digest. We're going to be doing content all season long. So thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for some more episodes, and we'll catch you in the next episode.